Bro, going live a little earlier than normal. Yo, yo. Trying to figure out why I can't hear myself, though. Oh, that's why. No headphones plugged in. I'll probably do it. What's up, Christos? You are indeed first, sir. Good to see y'all. Yeah, I'm out here making another attempt at getting this car registered, which involves about a 2-hour drive. I think I'm about 30 minutes into, since I'm out here in the Ozark, general vicinity of Branson, Missouri. I had to drive about 30 minutes to even be able to have any sort of signal for broadcasting. I'm assuming y'all can hear me. If not, if there's any technical difficulties, please let me know below, side, wherever the comments are, the live chat. And as I approach a traffic circle, hilariously, why they put these traffic circles in parts of the country where the people really don't have any ability to negotiate beyond me. Here's somebody coming 45 fucking miles an hour through a traffic circle, forcing me to stop at the yield sign, thus defeating the entire purpose of the traffic circle. They turned it into a green light, except you don't actually know if it's green or red because you don't have any way of knowing if a car's coming. You can't see it. And I've been in other parts of the country where the people do understand traffic circles. Everybody knows to slow down. Everybody let everybody go. Not here. Not the south, although I guess this isn't the south. Okay. Amazing. But these are the folks who, and this is why I will not allow people to get on that hopium. So these are the folks that are all going to wake up one day and just fucking figure it out. It's not going to happen. They can't. The birds before now, individuals. These masses who can't even convey themselves from point A to point B intelligently, there's no chance of them doing anything else. It's just not a thing that can happen, unfortunately. Not on a mass scale. Guess I should buckle my seatbelt, though. Go ahead and get that taken care of. Now, every once in a while, when I'm really feeling froggy, I just go ahead and keep going, even though I see that they're coming at 45 miles an hour and they have to slam on the brake. And they think I've done something wrong. So I'm supposed to go 45 for the traffic circle. Yeah, Stephen Wright, big fan. Beautiful singer. Indeed, that was groundbreaking material back in the day. Cheers to Mr. Crumley, sir. Not really sure what I'm going to be talking about. I was just listening to Paul from yesterday, just after my appearance at the top of the broadcast. Father was on there, and I do see a lot of parallels between Paul's relationship with his father, as I'm observing it anyway. I don't really know what's happened in the past or whatever, but necessarily I will, inject a lot of my own experience with my own father. I believe I've had a lot of the same issues, although, I don't know that we've had these sort of discussions about the being slave and all that, corporate slavery, but my father has exhibited much the same attitude as Paul's dad, and in fact, my father continues to some extent, except that I, in order to have a relationship where we're not at each other's throats all the time, there's certain things, and this is not advice for Paul. This is sort of musing on, my own thoughts here. Me understanding his narcissism, in the Jack Talcottian sense, where I've trained myself just not to engage with it for the most part, which does lead to some hilarious interactions. And my father, for his part, there's the sign. Unfortunately, I'm not able to broadcast the video because this signal bad out here. I may still lose you not doing the video. But, my father, for his part, yeah, all right, we're in Arkansas. My father, for his part, has at least been able to accept that I'm actually correct more often than not. His credit. Whereas Paul's dad seems to continuously fight no matter what. As people refuse to, as I'm slower moving traffic and people were passing me on a 5-mile-an-hour divided highway that was probably coming in today one day. I slow down to 45 so they'll pass. This is, by the way, this is what people are like now. In the old days, they damn near run you off the road. Had the audacity to cruise at 60 and 65. It'd be, middle finger and the horn as they blast by you at 75 and pass. It's just bizarre, man. It really is bizarre to just be a person. As somebody who's been observing human behavior, anthropologically, sociologically, psychologically, and if anybody thinks I borrowed that from Paul, he might have borrowed that from me. I hear him think that is a two-way street. So clear. Just completely bizarre. It reminds me of flying down to Houston just after the events of September the 11th of 2001, and I mean like a week after. I flew down to Houston, bought a used car, and drove it back to Arkansas. In Arkansas, if you go five miles over the speed limit back then, you literally passed everybody on the road 5 to 10 miles over. At a certain point on the north side of Houston, I realized that no matter how fast I went, people were going to continue passing me, and I was literally going 100, and people were passing. So it's much different nowadays. What has changed exactly? Well, the cell phone. Wanting to watch TikTok videos that go down the road. Anyway, I'll digress off of that. Get it. And I'm not really able to watch the chat. It's much easier actually to drive a big rig and look down at the chat versus this little bitty Mickey Mouse car. I barely touch the steering wheel. The car moved a significant amount compared to the big rig. I'm on an actual decent highway right now, but like winding mountain road. Small mountains, though. Those are small mountains. Mountains, nonetheless. I'll try, though. I'll see what I can do. And I don't really have a mount. I have one phone mount in the car, and it's using that for the navigation. So, bear with me, folks. It's either this or no broadcast. So. And I think I don't want to get into details, but I think I've figured out how to get the car ready. Get that shot today. Stuff with Paul and his dad, something really I found interesting was this part about, Paul was really pressing his dad, and then his dad is getting into this. I guess his dad has a female partner, I'm assuming, or a love interest. Maybe a woman he's met, somewhat recently, I'm guessing. I don't really know. As the exact same scenario I described before happened yet again. For some reason, all the traffic has to slow down to my speed before passing. By the way, I would never be a cop, but this is the sort of thing I fantasize about being a police officer. I would just sit out here and write tickets all day long. You know what? It'd be like, hey, that car that was going 60, why did you tailgate it before you passed it? Here's your ticket. Don't do it again. But anyway, I haven't driven and done a broadcast in a while. Actually, when I started live streaming, it took me a long time. Just be able to watch the traffic and not comment on it. Anyway, so my dad, met a woman in the last several months, and in fact, he chose to move to a completely different city in Arkansas, although it's in the part of the state that we're from. So from that standpoint, it does make sense because he's living in a part of the state that's a little different culturally than where him and I grew up, right? So with my dad, I was spending more time with him, when I first got off the booze and was super sick and had almost died. And then, although I'm feeling much less sick lately, so certainly not recovered, but way less ill than recent months. Although having a gallbladder issue, regardless, I know I'm all over the map. So bear with me. I'm sure the chat is lit as usual. Oh, see, I'm probably not even on the right mic. I just realized. See, I need you guys to tell me if the audio is not good. I think maybe I'm not even. I got my broadcast mic with me, but the way these phones work, if it just decides it's not connected to the phone, it just switches over to the phone mic. It's on the phone. How's my audio? Do I sound like I'm on a speakerphone, or do I sound like I'm on an actual microphone? The fact that there's only 16 people here leads me to believe I might have been on the phone mic this whole time. What's up, HR? Good to see you. Yeah, man. The tic-tac-toe in the sky is a thing. Sure. Thank you, Kuya early. So I'm going to try. Now, do I sound like I'm on the broadcast mic? Yeah, because it should be a huge difference in how I sound on this broadcast mic versus how the. But if you're hearing me clearly, then that's really all I need to know, because the phone is far enough away from me. You should not be able to really hear me. So am I back on the broadcast mic yet or not? Now I plugged in the broadcast mic, but I have no way of knowing other than picking up one of these other phones, listening, back to the broadcast. Well, I don't want okay. I want to know that I'm on a microphone that I'm literally talking to you. If I am, through $150 worth of audio equipment, I would really prefer to be talking through versus the phone mic of a phone that's 5 feet away from my mouth. Well, I'm loud as fuck. That's why you can hear me. I'm a very loud talker. Mic check, mic check. Phone or microphone? That is the question. See, what I keep doing is I'm unplugging the cabling from the phone, because I've noticed sometimes, for whatever reason, you just have to plug and unplug several times before it finally decides, oh, look, there's a microphone plug. It's hilarious to me how this technology almost works. All right. I guess I'm just going to have to listen in on my phone, my other phone. Give me a minute. Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check. All right, I think we're good. Apologies for all of that. The hypervigilance might certainly be a hindrance. As a whole group of cars catches up to me and just decides to drive at my speed for no reason whatsoever other than they're all on. I mean, this is laughable. Yeah. And this is why I can't ever get with this idea of any hope for humanity. I really can't. Not at a collective level. There's no way these people will ever figure anything out collectively. It's just not possible. Individually, sure, some of them will. Collectively, impossible. The fact that one slow-moving vehicle can come out here and literally determine the entire speed of the what's damn near an interstate highway. I mean, it's just complete insanity. Anyway, thank y'all for bearing with me. But yeah, back to the dead stuff. I just have to see. I'm not even going to be able to do the broadcast. I mean, this is how fucking stupid these people are. Fuck you, man. What is wrong with you people? I mean, now it's every car does this. There's no traffic, by the way. It's an interstate grade highway. People that are just insane. These are insane people. So next time somebody's on the panel and they start going into hopium, like a Jeff Pizer, does it make a little more sense why I wasn't going to humor his nonsense the other day? Because he wants to go into the hopium, and then I get in my car to drive 90 miles, and I can barely even fucking make it, because that's how brain dead these people are. But these are the people that I'm supposed to have hope in humanity for. I mean, give me a fucking break. And I go all over the country, so it's not like, I'm in the wrong part of the country. There's versions of this everywhere. All right, maybe I can actually talk about my topic. Maybe. I think it's also an element of how the country is communist, by the way. I think there's like an element of collectivism, like, hey, man, we're all doing this thing, and you're not doing the thing, so let's tailgate you and try to get you back up to speed doing the thing we're doing. Meanwhile, under freedom, as long as I'm not breaking the laws or hurting anybody, right? Am I not free to come out here and just go 60? And by the way, that's why the fucking fast lane exists. The fast lane exists so that people can go around slower moving traffic. But I really think if I went into the streets and just said, hey, here's $100, but first try, can you tell me why are there two lanes on the highway? Correct. Like, what's the purpose of the left lane? I don't think they would be able to tell you. I really don't think they would be like, so that faster moving traffic can pass forward. I legitimately don't think they know. I think they just think it's like, so more cars can go at the same time. It's fucking crazy. Well, and again, we don't even need a fast lane, really. The thing is, the way this road is designed, because of where it is and the amount of traffic, this could just be a 2-lane highway, and they could just pass me on the straight stretch. It really doesn't even matter that it's fast, because there's no traffic. If we were in traffic, I probably would just go 65, but I would realize then, okay, well, it is kind of inconvenient. Now I'm creating now I am sort of being a hindrance to the traffic flow. Right? I mean, it's just nuts. I'm in a very sparsely populated area. I mean, these counties probably don't have 20,000 people. That's what we're talking about here. By the way, big time Trump country. Operation Derp Creed. I did not watch the town hall, but I noticed that, and this is why it's helpful to check in on the drug report, sort of get an idea of what's going on in the slaves' mind, as I adopt some of Paul's vernacular. For me, it's more of a psychological, spiritual slavery, although it's also corporate slavery. Unfortunately, I'm involved in corporate slavery, although whether or not that will continue much longer remains. Getting to where the more I understand these dynamics, it's making it harder for me to actually go back to work in a regular job. Although, in fact, that's one of the major reasons why I stopped, why I dropped out of the workforce back in around 2009, 2010. Although the global financial crisis certainly helped. Well, I mean, what they should do is just put their left turn signal on, maintain their speed, get in the left lane, and just continue on about their day. And then when they're in front of me, put their right turn signal on and get back in the right lane. I mean, that's ultimately all that has to happen. I mean, they literally can't even do that. Now I got one going to slow merge. So I guess slow all the way down. But such is life. How things go out here. And it's raining, so of course I'm erring on the side of caution. But yeah, with the dad stuff, you know, I was having a lot more interaction with my dad, and then we were actually staying in a motel together for a period of time, which he tried to, and I knew what he was doing. He tried to make it seem like because he was leaving his wife at the time, right? And it had become a very abusive situation and a very toxic environment for him. And for whatever is wrong with his psychology, he needed some sort of compelling reason to leave, right? Which is that got turned into, well, my son is sick and I need to go help him. I don't know how much he helped me, right? But yeah, he did pay for part of a motel room. Meanwhile, I would have been just fine either way. But yeah, it was somewhat convenient. Although part of that was with these narcissists like Jack Talcott, and I've talked about Talcott trying to house up these drug addicts, back around Christmas time, apparently, 2022. So part of this was, well, my father also with the narcissistic supply, he wasn't necessarily able to go from that abusive situation just being it by himself all day, right? So I already knew, well, some of this is he's going to be, now he's going to be using me in some ways for the interaction, which I was only even willing to go into because I had learned his patterns well enough to know, well, I won't engage with him at the level of his stuff. And, that is a practice and a discipline on some level. And I'm not saying Paul does or doesn't know how to do that. I'm just saying, for me personally, I'm less inclined, especially being ill and older now, to put a lot of energy into fighting him. But I still ended up putting a lot of energy into just more or less holding my ground against this bozo, right? And even our phone conversations when we're trying to figure out, like, where to actually go as far as, a motel room and all this, I could tell he was suffering a lot of psychological sickness and these weird codependency relationships where, she's using him codependently and it's weird toxicity. And then he's, that's his only source of supply eventually. So he, just has no choice but to engage in this stuff. Dude, it's fucking sick, man, what a lot of people get involved in. And I refuse, and I won't have anything to do with it. I really won't. Dude, life's too fucking short. It really is. Oh, as we're entering Harrison, Arkansas, which that's all over YouTube. If you just Google Harrison, Arkansas, probably a whole lot of videos will come up about how it's supposedly the most racist town in America, which surely it's not, right? And I barely saw Moose's comment there, but the only way out is through, sir. So find yourself in hell, keep going. There really is something to that. The only way out is through. But yeah, it still sucks. So yeah, no advice for you other than that shit sucks. I guess you're just gonna have to deal with it because repression is always harmful to the individual, as we all know. I refuse to repress or suppress. Here's the famous Walmart on the left. I don't know if you can see it, but where many encounters have occurred in YouTube videos. Content creators who come to this town and realize, well, there's really nothing here. So everybody sort of ends up at the Walmart at some point. Yeah, there's a lot of towns called Cleveland, Cleveland. There's a Cleveland, Texas as well. In fact, I think that isn't that where that recent event supposedly happened, if I'm remembering correctly. I know I've been to Cleveland, Texas, truck driving. Yeah, go around, bozo. So bizarre. Wow, I'm passing a Toyota dealer and there's like almost no cars on their lot. Huh. There is a famous billboard here, something about it more or less is implying white pride as a thing, but it doesn't actually use the terminology white pride. But it wasn't raining. I was stopped to go to see it. Now this was definitely what they would have called a sundowner town, Rob. If you ever want to look up something on Wikipedia, type in sundowner town. So probably as recently as the '60s, there would have been signs on it on each side of town saying some version of "Don't let the sun set on your ass, black man," meaning like, yeah, we'll tolerate you if you come through in the daytime, but we catch you out after dark. Whatever happens, happens. It's nothing like that where I'm from, by the way, Rob. But yeah, I'm from a completely different culture. And by the way, that's why when my family started moving up here, my dad was talking about moving up here, and I was like, well, you're on your own because I'm not living up there around all those fucking white people. And I don't mean fucking white people across the board. I mean these white people, which actually there's nothing wrong with them. I don't have any problem with these white people, to be clear. I just don't want to be around. And I think this is something for my astrology chart we were looking at yesterday. I prefer a diversity of personality. Right? I definitely like being around these type of folks. I just don't like being in places where it's only these type of folks. Although, unlike the past, if you look at like Harrison High School, you will know there is a black athlete or two. I mean, people do love their sport. Well, in the South, even if this ain't the South, it's Arkansas. But so yeah, I knew as soon as my dad met this gal, and what hilariously also, he didn't actually tell me that he'd met a woman. I could just tell by the way the changes in his communication that I was like, okay, he's met a woman. And then eventually I was like, all right, man, like, do I have to keep pretending like you haven't met a woman? I mean, what is this? You know, like, can we just come out with it, please? And I think you see this in Paul's interactions with his dad. Also, it's like at a certain point, his dad's behavior is so infantile that it almost puts Paul in the role of the parent in some ways. And I feel that way with my dad in certain. It's like I'm the one who, but really I'm just way more mature, I guess, and I'm not even that mature, by the way. I think it says more about his level of infantile emotionalism. By the way, typical boomer. These boomer males, man, more often than not, this is just how they are. And in Talcott, he might be Gen X technically, but he functions as a boomer as far as I'm concerned. I'm wondering if he had really old parents. My dad's parents were like way older. That's even. Damn, why did I not bring more batteries? We're not going to run out, but Or if you're talking about where I am, yeah, we're in the middle of fucking nowhere. Just go to Google Maps and type in Harrison, Arkansas. And just look at the surroundings. There's just nothing here. I think from Harrison to like Northwest Arkansas, where like Walmart is, and I think there's like 500,000 plus people in the region. I think it's probably a solid hour drive from here. Yeah, this is just. And by the way, even Fayetteville, like even that region, when I talk about it having 500,000 people, dude, when I went to college there in '94, the whole region couldn't have been 150,000 people. I mean, the whole area was probably 100,000. If you look at the people that were even from there, the people from there, dude, their mentalities are like small town, racist, very like ignorant, fearful of outsiders. Oh yeah, dude, it's if you've never been to an area like this, like even where I grew up, it's so different, like night and day, man. Yeah, I would never live up here. My mom lives about 50 miles from here. It's basically the same thing. Yeah, I'm happy to come. Oh, by the way, that's where they attacked me with the fucking bio weapon. So if I wasn't a fan before, I'm definitely not now. But yeah, the Trump stuff is hilarious. I guess that's going to be it. I guess he's really going to fucking run for president again. Unless some kind of curveball pops up. Of course, I'm only talking about the fucking narrative. I know none of this shit's real, but it's real to these people. Uh, yeah, I'm not looking forward to. Although I do kind of hope he gets elected, so then I can laugh at people when none of the problems get it. Yeah, I feel for Paul Unslaved about his dad, the stuff with his dad, because you know I think it's pretty clear that it seems extremely unlikely that his father would change. Although you never know. My dad, I wouldn't say that he's changed because I don't think he's capable of change in those ways, but certainly cannot become introspective. Same thing with Talcott. It's not possible for people. Paul's dad is likely the same way, but I haven't without really. It's hard to know for sure, right? But most likely, my dad's at least been able to adapt and realize that he's better off, you know, having a relationship with his son. I'm assuming so that he is willing to alter his behavior in some way. But I don't. And this is mostly, by the way, after I didn't talk to him for several years, probably like 5 straight years. Not out of any animosity or vendetta, more like I can't have. I wasn't able to have such toxicity in my life. But eventually, I figured it out to the point where it's amazing with these narcissists. Once you learn, not you. I'm trying to break myself of that habit with listen. Once one, uh, you know, really becomes aware of these patterns that narcissists are involved with, and accepting that okay, well, narcissists, they're a lot of what they're doing is based on getting their, and they call it narcissistic supply, but I think about it more and more over time as it's really people engaging with their personality, with the personality of the narcissist, right? My dad's very charming and affable and gregarious in some ways. It's a very good like fake personality, right? And I wouldn't even know that it's a fake personality. It's just it's not the real him. But then we all sort of have a persona that we show to the world, right? Or personas. So then it gets kind of complicated there. But I really do. I think it's real that when I'm talking about Talcott, that he really does. He has to have people interact with his personality, and I think it's based on an infantile, irrational fear that if too much time goes by without people engaging with his personality, I think it really does feel to him like he doesn't actually exist, right? And it's terrifying. Uh, and I do think if you study, and I know Zetetic Warriors talked about the narcissistic personality disorder stuff, where my study of that lends, causes, although we can't really ever truly know, but it leads me to believe that these people that suffer with this, they really, their emotions really are that of a small child. Okay. So just imagine, being in that space all the time. And my dad, I can see it in him very much, the turmoil of emotion. And while I certainly experience strong range of emotion, I've put a lot of work into at least being able to somewhat understand what's going on. Again, like I told Moose, the only way out is through, right? Accepting that, okay, wow, what is that feeling? Oh, wow, it's a feeling of hopelessness and despair. Well, okay, why am I feeling that? Oh, it's because when I felt this way my whole life, I just, instead of experiencing these feelings, I just went ahead and repressed and suppressed, right? Which in fact damaged me, psychologically, spiritually, and emotionally. Depression. Now, when we talk about these emotions, we talk about disease, part of that, whatever physical ailment I'm having in my physical body, of course, some of that's tied to the ways in which I was not in touch with my emotions in the past, the ways in which I was not, but that each person is able to, use their creative force to create a false reality, and that is suppression, right? Refusing to experience those emotions. So for many years, I was like, well, I've never been depressed. I've never experienced depression. Yeah, that's exactly right. I never experienced it because I refused to experience it because I used my very strong abilities of dissociation, my strong will, my very creativity. I'm very creative. So I was able to suppress and repress all of those things very effectively. Whereas now, I just, again, the only way out is through. So I don't really want to feel those things, but so what? Who cares? That's a preference. Number two, I will not repress and suppress. I refuse. By the way, is why I just tell people about these things about my lower chakras that I'd really rather not talk about because of the way I was socialized and the culture in which I grew up. Of course, I have a lot of shame attached to that, and I always will to some extent. But I've realized that it's just way more effective to just go ahead and experience shame in the moment as I tell you this thing versus, I can just pretend like it's not the case, right? Just pretend like I don't, like those things don't exist. Oh, that's right. That's part of the shadow. And that's what I'm criticizing the CBO universe about now is them suppressing all of these things, right? By refusing to face the shadow. Okay, well, I guess I better practice what I preach then in that regard, huh? Which is what I'm going to do. Yeah, I really have no desire to talk to anybody about my lower chakra. But I'm doing that because that's the best thing for me. And even as the testosterone levels come back to optimal, I'm not still not down in those lower chakras. I'm not down there with O'Shea. Thank God. We're still just as people who saw me do the Wim Hof breathing may understand. I've been doing some of these practices long enough that certainly circulating those energies throughout my energy sphere. That's a thing. And I may lose you guys through here. I don't know. I'm entering the part of the journey where we might lose contact. We might lose. Hey, what's up, OTW News? Good to see you, sir. I don't know if you know, but you were indirectly involved in what Chalk Body Outline, aka Drew World Order, described as me breaking up with him. Well, interesting way to look at that, by the way. I would assume that as a mature man of a certain age who, had some sort of metaversal relationship on a friendship level, arguably with another man of about the same age, approximately, that would in fact be somewhere near 50-50, right? Although it's never truly 50-50. But no. Showing his hand once again, him always assuming the dominant position. Well, what's interesting about always assuming the dominant position in a relationship, in all relationships, is guess who's got a lot of experience with that? That would be the one talking to you. And I don't do that anymore. And I don't feel like I need to always be in the dominant role in relationships, right? And I think that's where this idea of this alpha beta thing is so harmful in a lot of ways. If you actually read psychology, the concept of a beta male is not a negative at all. It does not imply a lowly status. And it's always in a context, right? But yeah, I don't know if you know that, OTW, that the things were brewing, and apparently when you had, I guess, I never saw the full broadcast, but I think these people showed you a meme that you didn't realize was a meme at the level of, well, this is something that is in fact, for humor, it's poking fun at certain ideas, right? This school bus, yeah. Now we're gonna have to risk getting. Now we're gonna have to risk getting. Oh no. Okay, thank you. I was gonna stop because the state law says I have to stop, but yeah, he turned the lights off. But the school bus driver. But on this highway, I was risking. If I had to come to a complete stop on a fucking blind curve, I was risking getting rear-ended. Yeah, the state law don't give a shit about my safety now, does it? Of course, there's no cops out here. Try to do the right thing. It's funny how out here you really only see the police in town, and I mean like not the small town. I mean the 10,000 people town, kind of what we consider town around here. It's not big enough to have a Walmart. It doesn't really qualify out here. But that's the only place you really see the cops because everybody out here is armed. There's really no need for them out here on 2-lane highways. Although the state troopers are out here. Some of the time you'll see state troopers. See them out and about. But yeah, this idea that they decided that OTW had given a poor showing, and then because I have expressed some regard for OTW on a level of one human being to another human being, and because they're all clicking up over there, right? Meanwhile, Ben's one-man army, goddamn independent, right? I don't click up, although I might join, loosely affiliated groups for a, specific period of time to accomplish a goal, right? But I'm never truly clicked up, but because they're all over there set tripping and clicking up all of a sudden, because I actually, wanted to support another broadcaster's broadcast. Now I'm, necessarily
on his team because he, may have misunderstood a fucking internet meme. Now all of a sudden I'm in league with him on these levels, and I refuse to have it, right? Drew, as soon as I joined the morning show, which I was led to believe I was the co-host, right? But it's funny how some of these people, engage in these subtle manipulations, whether they know that these are subtle manipulations. And I'm talking about Drew here, because I myself am very skilled at manipulation. In fact, I still engage in it to some extent. I just mostly refuse to actively manipulate people, but I certainly do it from the past. Of course I do, right? And we all do to some extent. And I've asserted before that, as far as I can tell, whether we like it or not, the basis for almost all human interaction is manipulation. Is manipulation inherently negative, right? It sounds negative, but until we examine the concept, I'm not really going to accept that one person manipulating another person is necessarily bad, or seeking to manipulate, rather. So that the way our broadcast began is that, I know Drew's habits over time. He doesn't like to do a lot of preparation for a show, meaning he's not going to have a meeting with me ahead of time and be like, okay, what should we talk about? Although the first few shows, he emailed me the StreamYard link, and then I popped on the StreamYard, and before he went live, we had like a little 5-minute discussion where he sort of asked me what I wanted to do, and I just said, man, you know me, I can pretty much roll with whatever. And I assumed we were going to be covering the news today, which I'd prefer not to do, but I'm able to do that, right? But I also know that it's going to be me more or less giving the op-ed part of it while he just sort of sets me up, which is fine. I mean, we have established a good rhythm over time. Being able to do that. I think the audience likes it. Unfortunately, I guess we're not going to be working together. Shout out to 26 folks here, by the way. Good to see you. So that morphed into, so the first few shows, that was what happened. He emailed me the link right about the time he created the actual live stream in StreamYard, which also creates the live stream. You notify the audience, hey, there's about to be a broadcast. To where one day I went and saw the StreamYard link, was just posted to the live stream, because what had happened eventually at some point, Cecil Drake was joining the broadcast, like a little bit after I joined the broadcast, because we were still like having that pre-show meeting, right? But then eventually we were no longer having the pre-show meeting, and Cecil was arriving to the broadcast more or less the same time I was. And I don't know I don't know or care what communications they were having. It's none of my business. And everyone always reveals themselves over time, and I am a bit of a Sherlock Holmes. I've developed my deductive reasoning to the level where, dude, I'm not that smart in the moment, as many of you may have noticed, but I will figure out pretty much everything on the back through pattern recognition, deductive reasoning. Yeah, there is a chess game going on in the moment to moment, but then there's a poker game going on as well. I'm a little more, poker. So to me, like what you saw, on some level, what you saw with the aborted broadcast, where Drew tried to paint me with the same brush that they thought they were painting OTW, which I'm not even convinced that that's, again, it's an appeal to the fickle feelings of the peanut gallery, because as you saw, when Drew tried to go on with Paul and paint the same narrative, it didn't really fly now, did it? But it did fly on Get Chalked Up, or it did fly on, when OTW was on the panel with Toilet Bowl Earth or whoever's live stream it was, right? And I think part of the reason why people like my broadcasts in some ways is, dude, I could just play all of these live streams And I could pause it every 30 seconds and just break down literally all the dynamics to an insane degree. And that's where people say, oh, you're reading too much into this or you're overanalyzing. I'm like, no, I'm not. There's no such thing as overanalysis. I'm either analyzing or I'm not analyzing. I would say many of you are just not analyzing, which is fine. But the fact that I am analyzing, and I don't mean you, the listener, my apologies, as I continue to correct myself, and Wizard, thank you for trying to helping me rather, because I have been working on this for years. I don't know if you know this, Wizard. This thing that Wizard recently started talking about with you, people saying you, but it really not being appropriate. I've known about this for years. Southerners are the absolute worst at doing that, and I do it myself. I've sought to minimize it. Eventually, hopefully, I'll be able to break myself to that, but I don't think it's the members of the audience doing that, but people in the larger community certainly do it. Uh, Dynamic I'm speaking on. I could, like I say, I could certainly pause every 30 seconds, say, okay, well, this is happening because of this. This is what's going on. Here's all the psychological dynamics, because I am a lay expert in that, and I will not. As much as people like Toilet Bowl Earth want to just laugh at it, dismiss it. Well, what did I talk about on one of our more popular broadcasts recently, where I broke down the dynamics of, well, actually, seeking to negate out of hand that's the wrong strategy. That's an incorrect philosophy. What should be done for a correct philosophy or a correct strategy is try to see if the other person, meaning Toilet Bowl Earth, try to see, can you affirm what I'm saying? And then if you're unable to affirm it through your own powers of intellect, your own intuition, your own perception, your own analysis, if at the end of all of those processes, which by the way do require one to be present, do require one to be paying attention, do require one to tap into all of those processes, right? Which is energetic on some level, and a lot of people don't want to. Maybe they don't see that as efficient. See, I see it as very inefficient to negate something out of hand, because if it does prove useful, I've now negated it, meaning maybe I'm going to actually experience greater efficiency in the future, and I'm working on effectiveness. Bam. And if anything I say to you is genius level, that is genius level. And I will claim that. And I'm not saying I am genius. I'm saying that whatever that breakdown I just gave you, that is me tapping into something that I do believe represents a level of genius that certainly did not originate with me, but I'm able to tap into it. How am I able to do that? Well, by getting over myself. Certainly I do it by refusing to appeal to the fickle feelings of peanut gallery. So when we see that Drew and Toilet Bowl Earth are easily able to, appeal to the fickle feelings of the peanut gallery, well, then when they go over to the Paul Unslaved, when Drew's on for Paul Unslaved, well, it doesn't work now, does it? Because the peanut gallery is not present in that form. Now it is in other ways, certainly. Maybe with some of the stuff with Tommy, right? Some of that is appeals to the peanut gallery. That's where you get all the meth stuff. But that's all appeals to simple emotion. I mean, ultimately, who gives a fuck what substances the man, chooses to put in his body or doesn't choose to put in his body? It's really none of our fucking business. And as he so astutely points out, we really wouldn't know unless he had told us, or most of us wouldn't. What's up, Woody? Good to see you, brother. I wish I was with Nana right now, Woody. I'd let you listen to her. I know you don't want to come on the broadcast with your voice and stuff. Type at her, I suppose. So, without giving away too much, last time I went to the revenue office to try to register my vehicle, and that's a whole other can of worms, obviously. I'm still involved in corporate slavery, certainly. It's looking more and more like I'll be coming up out of that at some point, but we're not there yet. They told me that the guy I bought the car from for this bill of sale, that as far as they're concerned, he could sign it, the bill of sale, and then he could send that to me electronically, which would include email, would include taking a picture in the form. That is, I believe, the form that they told me is accepted without me having to forge anybody's signature. I think I've figured out how to satisfy the things that the slave system is asking me to do here, or that I'm agreeing to do based on what the slave system is asking me to do, that I'm consenting to. Let's be very specific, and I think this is half of what it. I can't speak for Paul Unslaved, but I think this is a good 40% of probably what annoys him is that I don't think he's super annoyed that people choose to do these things, although I'm sure he's probably somewhat annoyed. But that many of us don't understand or don't comprehend it well enough to be able to verbalize it in the way that I do. Ultimately, I am giving up my own authority to the corporate state. That's what I am doing at the present moment. And I do consider that to be a subversion of my own free will. Well, let's leave the free will out of it. I do believe it is satanic in some way, and that I am, in some measure, I'm choosing to bow down to something that's lesser than myself, right? And it really is that serious. So, when Paul, he does become what sounds like in ways. He becomes it seems hyperbolic in some ways, but it's actually not hyperbolic. It is rooted in a literal spiritual war between force and good, force and evil. So I think eventually I will be totally out of this. But in the short term, the reality is, if I'm going to do car camping at some period of time over the summer, which maybe I'm going to, right? And while I have the money, my life will be much easier if I go ahead and install some sort of solar system into this car where I can at least plug some version of a crock pot in overnight and cook my food. And the fact my health has improved, to a great degree in the recent 6 weeks has been the fact that I'm resting much more effectively because I'm not working every day, and then also I'm getting greater nutrition because while the canned food has some nutrition, it doesn't have very much compared to actual real food. And as bad as GM food is, I'm consuming from Walmart, still has more nutrition than canned food. It's, by the way, something I have acknowledged, throughout this time. As I pointed out to the people, like I have to put calories in my body, right? I've just barely maintained body weight. No, I think I might be back up to somewhere around 140 pounds, by the way, looking at myself in the mirror. As this slave can only pass me. And this is something else about their psychology where they're operating from their emotions to the point where this slave has been driving right behind me, where there's been 2 lanes in our direction where they can pass me, but they are not willing to pass me until the lanes we're going back to 1 lane in each direction. So as soon as they saw that the road is ending, right, that they're not going to have a passing lane, now they're incentivized to pass because they need that emotion. Oh, now they feel like I'm going to hold them back. Whereas before there was no feeling, even as I was to some extent holding them back. And see, I have detected and conquered all of these emotional systems. And as much as I do engage in and act on my own excessive emotionalism, not as much as I am triggerable, I have mastered these what I call very mundane emotional ways in which the average person has no idea, moment to moment. They just are not cognizant, whereas I am, and I refuse to operate based on it. And Woody, I'm going to try to comment without literally running off the road here, but he says, I have graduated from concentration camp victim to heroin chic. Thank you, sir. Well, and I must say, as one who certainly, and again, back to the Krishnamurti would say, well, it's not really a problem that Benton is vain so long as he understands that he's vain. Oh, I know how vain I am. The fact is, as much as I enjoyed having, a pretty good amount of lean mass on me and a pretty good amount of bulk on me, I was never going to be at a low body weight and have a lot of mass on me. I wasn't going to be lean and 190 pounds without drugs, by the way. Your average fucking white boy who puts on a lot of muscle, if they really are what we call natural, I could be natural and 175 pound ripped, or I could be natural and be 190, but have some fucking be a 34-inch waist and have, a fat face. And when I gain weight, man, it goes to my face first. So, yeah, the vain part of me, I do look better with a thin face. Reality. Although I certainly, not when I was 125 pounds, it's like, oh my God. Now I look like now I look like death, or I did rather. And it shows you how unhealthy the general public is, because when I would talk to a stranger, I am very adept at, starting conversations with strangers. When I get involved in some, if I would actually talk to a stranger about how serious my health was, they were always, well, you look how good I look. And I'm like, yeah, that's because I've detoxed my liver, and that's why my skin looks clear, because compared to y'all, I've got like a top 1% liver, but that's because y'all's livers are fucked, more or less. Just the average person out here's liver is in pretty bad shape, whereas mine was in bad shape, and then I got it right back to tip top shape. And even when I was drinking, my problems did not involve my liver, involved my other organs. For whatever reason, I've had a strong liver my whole life. Thank you, thank you, I almost said metaverse. Thank you, universe. But yeah, thanks for noticing. And really, like I've talked about, it really doesn't matter out here. The fact that I can walk around at 140 pounds. It really doesn't matter. We're not having fist fights anymore. Like I don't. There's no reason. People might think they can push me around based on my small stature, but my personality is so big, I can quickly disabuse them of those notions. No problem. I've been doing that my whole life. Not really an issue. I don't need to be 190 pounds or 180 or 185, whatever I was most of my living the street days. Probably right at a buck 80, buck 85. Most of that, I would say. $22 miles to the UPS store, but I don't think they're going to be open until like 8:30 or 9. See how that goes. I'm in these little towns. I'm passing through one of them now, and I stopped to use the restroom at this little store I just passed last time I came through here. Went to the bathroom. LGBT propaganda right there on the wall of the bathroom through a local church, by the way. So this idea that you could just go move to the rural areas or go move to a lowly area with a small population, and that somehow sidesteps these greater issues. No, it doesn't. No, it does not. And I only had maybe an hour of conversation with my mom last time I was here, and she brought up the fact that both of her, two of her granddaughters are involved in some version of LGBT, right? So it's a thing, man. I don't care where you go, it's a thing. Or I should say, it's not my concern. People can pretend, but again, what is that? That's suppression. That's repression. That's someone refusing to face something that's right there in front of them. Just go to your local churches. It maybe the first one you go to, you won't encounter any sort of LGBT propaganda, but I guarantee you, in every little town in this country, there's some version of LGBT propaganda in every single church, and not in every single church, but in at least one of those churches. And then, these Baptist churches, what do you think a youth pastor is? That's a young male homosexual. That's what that is. That's who becomes a youth pastor, y'all. There's effectively not a such thing as a young heterosexual youth pastor. They're not interested. Okay? It's really not a thing. I'm sure there's some exceptions. Well, there's exceptions to everything. I don't believe focusing on the exceptions would be helpful. But then again, there's some things some of us can't see, right? Like Tom Cotton, these bozos who talk about MAGA, and they identify with Republicans. Tom Cotton from Arkansas, that is the most obviously gay man I've ever viewed in my life. I will bet you everything I own that man's a homosexual. That's how confident I am. Now, maybe he just doesn't know it himself and he's repressing it in the closet. I don't know. Couldn't tell you. But that's a gay man. 1%. There's no way it's not. Hey, food bank, by the way. There's a line for a food bank out here in the middle of nowhere also. Lined up in their cars, burning expensive, expensive gasoline. Oh, but it's $3.15, and now we think it's cheap because it was $5. See how the conditioning works? What a joke, man! And that's why I'm strict with people on these live streams. I'm like, look, I'm not identified with this thing out here. I'm not identified with this government, and I slip up every once in a while, and I might get involved in a week and refer to the masses or the people or the government and the corporate structure. But more and more, I'm not identified with this out here. It's not my identity. This idea of America. It's not a thing for me. And I was never particularly patriotic, to be honest with you. I was really, and this is why I really do identify more as somebody from Arkansas and as a Southerner as I ever did as an American. And a lot of us from the South have that a little bit of a small man complex, I guess, respect to the Civil War. That would be the American Civil War. Which let's be honest, if that was a thing and it happened the way we're told, that was certainly there were forces behind the scenes that were making sure that the Southern commanders were not allowed to seek a strategy of total war early in the war. That's what both Lee and Jackson recognized as the only way to really win the war was to completely destroy the North militarily. And debatably, it's something that could have been done. Again, based on the official picture. I'm certainly not an expert on the Civil War, but this idea that the North somebody just happened to find the fucking Southern battle plans in a letter that somebody dropped in the woods somewhere, right? Come on. The fact that somebody just happened to mistake Stonewall Jackson for the enemy and shot by his own man, and then died. No, come on. That strains credulity, folks. To be sure, like it just doesn't wash. So, and I think Europe and Britain and all of this, Great Britain certainly had a lot to do with whatever was going on behind the scenes. But again, I'm merely addressing the official picture here. I think we really know. But yeah, it's all a thing, man. How I got off on the Civil War, I'm not sure. The American Civil War. By the way, never was a rebel flag guy either, which is interesting. I don't know if it's just because I grew up around so many black folks. By the way, they didn't give a shit. People where I'm from, they didn't care. But I think it just they didn't. Either way, they didn't. I can't speak for them, but it seemed like they didn't think it was a bad thing. They didn't think it was a good thing. Yeah, that's that white boy stuff. That's what the white boys are into. Some of them. For whatever reason, I never saw it as a thing. Although interestingly, I did become a slightly tribal. We are tribal. We're all tribal, whether we want to. When the whole George Floyd stuff popped off, and, I started seeing that it was going to be implied that I was, more or less guilty of certain crimes of oppression just solely by being presumably a heterosexual male, right? Or at least a heterosexual acting male, right? Outside of an LGBT context. And now I'm like, well, I guess I better go get me an American flag bandana, just shave my head again, show these people who they're dealing with. Like, yeah, I'm happy to let all this lie dormant, but if you're forcing me to click up, I guess I'm gonna have to go click up with the people I'd rather not click up with. By the way, seeing 22 in here, to me, that is more or less the core audience. Although I realize I'm just now going live, and still a little early based on how we all kind of become trained over time. I'm happy to address the 20 folks who are here, and thank you for listening, by the way. And I do feel somewhat obligated to broadcast. Wow, there's a bunch of cars I might have bought. There's people, 2 nice Toyota Tacomas, and then 3 Honda CRVs, which I'm not a big fan of the CRV, but for the quality of the automobile compared to what they cost, they represent an excellent value. I would say. Not a fan of the car overall, though. It's arguably a better quality car than the one I'm choosing to drive, but I much prefer some first manufacturer. And at the risk of giving away too much about what I was talking about earlier, I have learned a little bit more about using free software like GIMP and how to work with images. So maybe my thumbnails, I might start making my own thumbnails here. I'm starting to develop some of those builds. What's up, Carl? Good to see you. I don't know, Carl. I think I'll let you do the tone policing, and I'm not saying that in a pejorative way. I'll leave the tone policing of the live cast. So have at it, sir. I like Crumley, but he does see, and this is okay, by the way. I don't ever want to pressure people to exhibit certain behaviors. My thing is, I've had to become intolerant of certain behaviors with respect to religion, because I got people in here who I value who are triggered by religion, and much as I was very strongly triggered by it in 15 years ago or so, and I had to put a lot of work. I chose to put a lot of effort and work into being able to even deal with some of these religionists without just completely losing my fucking mind, right? But as we see with these, what I would refer to as crusaders, these people who are clicking up over there, I do observe some of the same traits in Crumley, but that's okay. It's up to him. As long as I don't feel like he's driving my other regulars away from the broadcast more than month to express however he chooses. And Razvan just being so dense I basically told Razvan, hey man, I'm gonna ban you. I don't want to ban you. Please don't trigger these people. And then fucking 5 minutes later, he's literally addressing not only is he saying the same type of comments, he's literally addressing him to the one person I don't want them addressed to. And I'm just like, well, here we go. No more Razvan. Razvan, if you're listening, that's the only reason you're not allowed to post anymore. And just, by the way, what I've noticed in these people, man, these crusaders, these people who are clicking up over there, man, in the DWO universe, they have almost no ability to detect these flaws in their own characters and correct them. By the way, so if we really all are all sinners, which I'm not willing to accept, but I am willing to accept Drew's version of there is something in the realm that we can refer to as sin or error, right? Or just mistakes, or a lack of righteousness. Like, we can describe these things in many ways, but yeah, I'm willing to go. Drew's not just wrong across the board, right? He's not. He's wrong by not detecting that in the ways in which his religiosity is manifesting in the moment. It's manifesting through certain defects of character that the religiosity is playing upon to manipulate the adherents of the religion and to control them and to control society. And that, in fact, these mechanisms were much more important in the recent past in America to control, and especially to repress and depress these urges and these desires, especially of the lower chakras. And religion, if the religion is going to control the masses, it necessarily cannot have them integrating the shadows of their lower chakras. So it must have them engaged in a process of suppression, repression, and depression. And I would assert that this is not person A using person B. This is phenomenon or phenomena A, meaning religion itself, using phenomena B, the masses. Maybe that's a phenomenon. I don't know. I get a little lost in the sauce. I know Yurt's pointed this out indirectly, so my apologies, Yurt, if I'm running afoul of strict syntax here. But yeah, it's religion using the masses for, not even religion's gratification, but for the gratification of the elites. These sick, twisted, demonic reptilian entities, right? These reptilian, and Paul nails it on the head when he talks about the cremation of care, right? The people, the reptiles, the people turning themselves into reptiles by cremating the care so that they can have their high position in Satan's kingdom to administer his kingdom, Satan's kingdom in this realm. The prince of the power of the air, the ruler of the realm. The de facto, or the one who is effectively ruling. Say God is in charge all you want. I don't think the Most High is down here day to day running this shit. It doesn't seem like it. I hope not. If free will's a thing, that doesn't seem like what's happening. If the Most High is down here running the show, then I guess I don't have free will. I don't know. I might be a tad above my pay grade, getting a little too philosophical for my own good. Here's where cash is king. There's a whole bunch of travel trailers to sell out here, but as Mitchell pointed out, it's a bit of a hindrance trying to pull something like that, depending on where one's trying to go, right? You just want to spend all your nights in a Walmart parking lot or a truck stop somewhere. I'm sure it's great. I actually go out there and explore. Although debatably, Mitchell, if you wanted to have the travel trailer, you could do a combination. And this is what you could do, by the way. Not that what you should do. I have no idea what you should do, but they do. If you have enough fiat, like you may already know this, but truck stops, you can actually pay for reserved parking. So presumably, you actually drop your travel trailer in the reserve parking at one of these Pilot or Flying J truck stops, or a TA or a Petro, 15 to 20 bucks a night. Drive your smaller vehicle, to the national park or whatever. Still, obviously, there are ways, right? If I could figure out a way to run an air conditioner, I'd just sleep in this car. Lord knows I could find some places, especially if I'm in Arkansas. There's always somewhere to go park. One has enough gas money. Somewhere to go park, not be detected. It's just fucking hot, man. Try to sleep in a vehicle in summer out here. And then, by the way, now you got the bugs. You can't have the windows up. So even if one is willing to have the windows cracked, just deal with the sweating all night, well, how are you going to deal with them bugs? Good luck. Good luck to you. Yes, make sure to create the most dangerous situation possible there, driver. Do that, bozo. Anyway, I've digressed off my digression. Sure where I am. As I see a Kia Soul for sale, that's another excellent vehicle that's underrated in my opinion. Yes. Oh, and available in a manual, at least passengers. I don't know about. I actually found a Kia in a manual that I might have purchased, except it had a lot of miles on it, and it was a dealer selling it. They're not going to give me enough of a discount for low miles, for the high miles rather. So, if all goes well, I will avoid the slave tax, and I will have a license plate. Very good. I believe this is the last day to avoid penalties. Apparently, I required it, and really, ultimately, I gotta say, overall, I'm not that concerned with not having this thing registered to me as far as driving around. It's that I know that in the near future I might sell it, and it's way easier to sell if I've got the Arkansas title in my name. And in order to do that, I'm gonna have the register. They'll mail it somewhere between 2 weeks, so like 2 to 6 weeks. Way easier to sell a vehicle if you have the title, assuming you're the one who owns it. And thank God, because it kept me from buying a Subaru, which I love the Subaru's capabilities, but some of those boxer engines, the head gaskets, they go bad. Too much engine problem. People can make fun of me for driving what's effectively a Renault, a French car, and you can make fun of me for, what I believe is a Nissan designed engine, but this engine is literally assembled in Mexico, but these motherfuckers don't break down. So, as long as this thing is, I don't have nothing to worry about. This transmission don't go out, this engine don't go out, and you're gonna have to replace the clutch at some point. Oh yeah, the front end components wear out earlier. So, 1,000 miles, I could drive this thing 2,000 miles as long as I'm willing to spend money on tires and the front end for $4,500. I don't really think I could go wrong. And even then, I think I could have. And by the way, here's where I don't like to bully and manipulate people necessarily to start this thing, but it would have been based on my force of personality versus his more weak personality. And I'd rather give him $500 than just impose my will on him that way. I just would. I feel better about myself. I would rather give him the extra 500 than bully him into meeting my price. And I know he would have. I know he would, because I was reading his body language. And is that me being a good person? Yeah, it is. It's me choosing to be a good person, even though honestly, I'll sleep just fine if I bullied him into giving me that. a lower price. And maybe, by the way, maybe it wouldn't affect his life, but I don't know. Maybe he's going to be in a bind, and that $500 is going to be the difference between him getting out of a tight spot or not getting out of a tight spot. I have no idea. None of my business, really. Couldn't tell you. Well, we're in the little town of Mountain Home. I've shied away from revealing the exact town my mom lives. Really, the county. Pretty much the only thing that's here as far as I can tell. Because Paris is actually in the county. Although I forget what county that is exactly. My sister lives in the area. She's outside the town, where somewhere in her husband grew up here. I guess that's how my mom ended up here. My sister ended up here. They don't, HR. You're wrong. Nissan transmissions don't suck. You know why? It's a manual. And this 6-speed manual is motherfucking bulletproof, baby. But yeah, I agree with you. They're some of their automatics, by the way, are fantastic. I had a 99 Maxima automatic. That transmission was bad fucking ass, sir. Their CVT transmissions are complete garbage. They do make a Versa in a 4-speed automatic, non CVT. But dude, this 6-speed manual with the 1.8 liter Nissan, even engine, even though it's assembled in Mexico, this is a bulletproof drivetrain. But unfortunately, it's like the CD axles are not strong. Basically, the entire front end just wears out prematurely. You know, the fucking ball joints probably already need to be replaced at 73,000 miles, like literally. And by the time I got rid of my 09 with 100, I don't know, 40,000 miles, they were like well beyond needing to be replaced. In fact, by then the entire front end needed replacing. Like, not even kidding. But yeah, the actual engine and transmission bulletproof. So I stand by that. But yeah, I do tend to agree because I think you got to go back to the '90s, the late '90s, early 2000s, find a bulletproof Nissan transmission. Everybody runs the light. See, I don't run the light. This is also why people probably shouldn't follow too close. And this is also why bozos like to tell me, like, this car's got, the tires have halfway decent tread on them, but they still need to be replaced because I damn near went into a fucking skid because it's wet out here. Like, I can tell when a set of tires replaced. Yeah, I understand visually they look like they got tread, but these tires need to be replaced. It needs to climb. And that's part of how, because the guy was trying to get me to, he was trying to stick to his 5,500 price, and I was like, man, I said, part of it is that this thing's going to need a set of tires. Like, yeah, I can probably drive it five to 10,000, but 10,000 could be pushing. Dude, it needs a set of tires right now. It's not unsafe in the drive, but it's borderline unsafe, I would say. If I wasn't an expert driver, if I did lose control of the vehicle, then I would be able to quickly get it back under control. And these are all a thing, right? Yeah, I love these little cars, man. Great little car. Although I do say the Yaris and the Fit are most likely better cars, but you're just not going to find one. Just not going to find one this miles in this condition sale in a manual. Not possible. do, it's going to be you're going to be very, very lucky, or it's at a dealer and they're going to wait. I will say that on some level, I manifested this car. I will say that. I agree, Ginger Ridge. In fact, Ginger Ridge says he ignores the red arrows for the left turn. In fact, I regularly go through those in an 18-wheeler, depending on the circumstances. And I just straight up run red lights. If it's 2 in the morning and there's nobody out here, I stop and then I go. And if I get, even in the big rig, if I get pulled over, I'm just going to look like, look, man, there's nobody out here. You got to write me a ticket, go for it. But I'm not gonna. I don't subscribe to this idea that I somehow did something wrong. To me, it's insane that I would just sit there for fucking 3 minutes while nobody comes to this intersection. That's nuts. And like, yeah, I know how to turn left, so I don't really need the help of the arrow. Last time I was here, there was a one of those foreign versions of the Toyota pickup. What did they call that? I forget. For sale, right-hand drive and all that. I guess somebody bought it. It's not here anymore. It's a really nice truck, but I'm not doing the right-hand drive, especially in a manual. I'm already fucked up enough being left-handed and I'm left-handed or right-handed depending on what we're talking about. I'm damn sure not gonna try to shift with my fucking left hand. No thanks. Yep, 90s Maximas were great, and I like the redesign. That 99 was like the second year of the redesign, I think. That was an awesome car. I bought it with high miles. It was a flood car. Bought it with high miles, salvage title. Dude, that thing never needed anything. I might have put an alternator in. Never needed anything. That car was amazing. Loved it. The only thing about those, they're all V6s, or it might have been an inline six. Now that I've forgotten, it might have been an inline six, but I think it was actually great engine, but not so good on the fuel. And you could get it in a manual. That one was not bad. Although I was married at the time and she wasn't trying to drive a manual. Although I'm sure she knew how to. All right, I gotta pay attention or I'm gonna miss it. Find out if UPS store's open yet. I think they open at 8, so we might be wrapping up, or I might just yeah, I guess I will wrap up once I get up here because although I do need to eat the rest. One thing about these little towns, there's the casing, but if I turn left into the casing, I'm not going to be able to get out of there. This is small town rush hour. No fucking way I can make a left turn out of that. Here's a liquor store that I've been to many times. Oh, dude. Super cute dready girl, by the way. Well, she cut her dreads off when I first met her. She had dreads. I used to go in there, and we had a good rapport. Maybe a bit of a mutual attraction. Sure. Now that I don't drink, and then by the end of my drinking, I could tell that I was getting kind of weird based on how she was reacting to me. Cute little funky chick though. She was from like California. And unlike the rest of Arkansas, you can actually liquor stores are actually open on Sundays here. One of the very few places in the whole state. Yeah, Nissan used to make some really great, and when they still do make some great cars in some ways, but yeah, it's all of this consolidation of these automakers. has not been a good thing in a lot of ways. I would say. I know my dad was a big. He always had Volvos the whole time I was growing up. And when Ford ended up taking over Volvo cars, he lost it pretty quickly. But yeah, and Renault does make some decent little hatchbacks, lest we forget. It's not like they're just trash across the board. Certainly, I'm not looking to the French for a great car necessarily. Really, what I would want was a Acura RSX. Probably what I would like to have. It's getting to where you really can't hardly. It's very difficult to find one that's not been modified and just beat the absolute hell. I mean, there's some out there, but I will be happy to get these fucking Texas plates off of here. What's up, What Life? Good to see you. Shout out to Chad as always, by the way. I got some decent little restaurants that I'll be going in. I'm almost brave enough to try an egg. I think maybe I can eat an egg without it fucking me up bad. I might try that here pretty. Not quite brave but good enough to go raw yet. All right, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. Could be back later today, depending on how early I get back to the motel room. My mom has no idea that I'm in town. So, hey, it's 3:22, by the way. Gasoline 3:22 here in this town. Hell, it's two something, 297 in that little town in Missouri. But yeah, but anyway. Yeah, could be back if I make it back to the room early enough. Thanks for watching. Bye.